About Governor Cuomo.
We'll go right here, and then I'll go over here next.
If you could talk a little bit about Governor Cuomo, you mentioned, I guess, when you announced the formation of the committee, that he's governed New York through fear and intimidation. What do you
Well, look, I think this has been widely covered, whether it be about how well we're going to work together to get excellence in our schools. From the very beginning, he demonized teachers. That's anathema to, I think, what our state really believes. You know, we know that our teachers are special, that they're not going to be rich, but they get to be rich at heart because they're inculcating, inspiring, and yes, educating. You know, are they perfect? They're not. I'm not perfect. I don't know anybody who is. But what we really need is, rather than having somebody who's meant to be the demon and then we move on and on some course of action offered by Governor Cuomo, what we really need instead is to define the problem, find ways to get everybody at the table to contribute to the solutions. That's just one example. And then the next example is even within his own party. It seems like he's always looking for ways to embarrass others and to somehow have the power, the asymmetry of power. And I tell you what concerns me is I've moved about the state. What concerns me is I hear individuals who say, well, you know, when it comes to the corruption in Albany, there isn't anything we can do. And when it comes to Cuomo, there's nothing we can do. We're stuck with him. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that if we work hard and if we connect with people across the party, both parties, and really all parties when you consider those unaffiliated, we can defeat him, and we can change the direction of New York.
So it sounds like you were counting on at least some independents and Democrats to support you if they're not comfortable with Cuomo as governor.
Absolutely. And really, you just have to go out and I know you do, just walk among people and ask them questions. And look at the response in the last 24 hours. Since I set up my exploratory committee, take a look at the comments on Facebook. And you'll see that a fair number of Democrats have written just that on the page. And when you analyze the results of the 2014 election, again, in a district that voted for President Obama twice, we won by 30 percentage points. So clearly, I had the strong support of my base. I had the support of independents and a fair number of Democrats. And I think that's, you know, obviously politically that's important to have electoral success, but I also think it's important for the mandate that comes out of the election so that in the difficult times ahead that we can bring people together to make the necessary decisions. Yeah, over here.
Yeah, last time around, both Zephyr Teachout and Rob Astorino did very well upstate, but Andrew Cuomo's support was largely in New York City. How do you intend to get your message across down in the city, which is A, you know, very liberal by nature, and B, where people might not know you as well as we do upstate?
So thank you very much. 2 points on that. The first of which is, and again, you know, we're all products of our experience. I'm no different. I think it's very important to have a reality-based assessment. So in New York State, we have just shy of 20 million people, of which 10 million are of voting age. Of the 10 million that are of voting age, about 7 million of them are registered to vote. So the first thing I would tell you is that we have 3 million people who are not even registered to vote, many of whom I think would be inclined to support me in a run for governor. So that's the first piece of this. The second is, of the 7 million who are registered to vote, the Democratic Party holds a 2-to-1 advantage over Republicans. And then when you look at the election results, this is really the burden of your question. I'm moving in tighter now on your question, is there were roughly 3.5 million votes cast. A little over 2 million for Governor Cuomo and about 1.5 million for our candidate, Rob Astorino. So we lost by a little over 500,000 votes. And when you look at this in relation to history, take a look at George Pataki's victory in 1994. In 1994, George Pataki got just shy of 2.6 million votes. So we're at least 1 million votes off our vote target. And keep in mind, that was a pretty high voter turnout. I think for 2018, there is generally speaking, 3 different brackets that you can look at for the results of the 2018. There's what could be a low voter turnout, which would be described as what that last election was. And then you could talk about a median voter turnout and a high voter turnout. I think for the Republican candidate to be successful, the Republican candidate with high risk, defined as a low voter turnout, would be 2.1 million votes. A Republican win with moderate risk achieves at least 2.3 million votes. And to have a Republican victory with lower risk needs to exceed over 2.5 million votes. So I think that's important because when you talk about and it's understandable that you talked about this upstate, downstate divide. I get that. At first blush, when you look at the data, that's where you would end up. But actually, when you take a deeper dive, you will see that we missed we missed so many votes in upstate New York. Many votes in upstate New York, between those not registered and those who didn't come to our side. That's number one. Number two is the question still remains, what about New York City? So in New York City, there are 350,000 registered Republicans. And in that last election, we earned 172,000 votes. We didn't even get 50% of the registered Republicans in New York City. So we've got to do better getting our base out. And then beyond that, I think growing up in a working class family, my mechanic in the building trades, I appreciate very much the struggles of those right now that we're so proud of, our hardworking men and women who were involved in the building construction trades. I'm proud to have their support. I not only had their endorsement and their investment financially in my campaign, I had their hard work, knocking on doors and making phone calls for me. Nothing could make me prouder because, in as much as I talked earlier about advanced manufacturing and how important that is for our positional advantage in the global economy, we still need to be a country that makes things with our hands. I'm very proud of our painters, our welders, our steam fitters, our carpenters, all the folks that help make this country what it is. And I think I can gain support in New York City there. I think that being a veteran, somebody who served our country in combat, I think that I'll be in a position to potentially win over votes among veterans, regardless of party in New York City. Look, I helped fight hard for the Zadroga 9/11 healthcare bill, and even though you didn't see me in all the headlines in the news, I got to better know the leaders of our first responders, our firefighters and police, and they know that I worked hard for that bill, and we got that done for them, and I think that's a potential area of support. Look, I've had the endorsement of the teachers, the last two. There's no guarantee for the future that I would get it, but I have shown a level of support that when you look at New York City and the fact that we're starting earlier, and the fact that I'm going to get help in the city reaching communities that in the past we haven't had support, I think you can see that we certainly will grow on the 18%, which was the total amount of the vote we got in New York City in 2014.
Congressman, I know